Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ. And before I get started on today's episode, I just wanted to take a second and apologize to you guys for my performance last week. Nobody said anything like ill to me personally, but it was just what I seen for myself and how I felt after I ended up recording the episode and uploading it and just rewatching it. I didn't like my performance. I didn't like my energy. I didn't like my delivery on a lot of things I was saying. So I just wanted to apologize to you guys because, you guys are spending time out of your day to watch my content and, I want to deliver. People's time are valuable. It's it's the most valuable thing we have to offer is our time. So I do want to apologize to you guys, and I want to let you guys know, moving forward, I'm going to, try to be the best I can be and continue to progress, because I always tell you guys, I'm not a perfect man. I'm a progressive man. So I just wanted to take this moment and just to kind of just self-reflect and let you guys know that I didn't like my performance last week and we'll be better, moving forward. Okay. So I just want to get that off my chest. And then, so let's just start on it today. Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. If this is your first time checking out my podcast, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to check out my podcast. I also want to let you guys know this is a basketball podcast. So on my podcast, normally I talk about the NBA, college, high school, and international. Right now, we're in that season where it's playoff basketball. So we're on week 2 of talking about playoff basketball. And I kind of just want to start off today's episode. I want to talk about the refs real briefly, and then we'll dive into the Eastern Conference and kind of where everything is standing right now. I want to let you guys know this is being recorded Saturday, May 3rd at about 2 p.m. So obviously we got the big Game 7 later on tonight with Denver versus the Clippers. We'll get into that. And then we got the Game 7 tomorrow with Golden State in Houston. And then also Game 1 of, I believe, Cavs and Pacers, starts tomorrow on Sunday. So we'll get to all that stuff in a bit. But I want to talk about the refs really quickly because there's been things that I think some of us have been, we've been complaining about or been happy about. And for me personally, for the most part, I've liked how the refs have called a lot of these games. They've allowed a lot of stuff to pass in these games. And people, during the regular season, everybody's complaining, it's physical enough. It's not physical enough. It's too up and down. And I'm happy to see. Last year's playoffs wasn't bad. Honestly, I think this year's playoffs, at least in my opinion, has been a little bit better. I don't know. Haven't really put on my finger why that is. It may be because the physicality has ramped up a little bit more this year than it was last year, or maybe just the quality of teams, maybe. But for me, at least this year has been a lot better. There's been a lot more better games during the playoffs, in my opinion. But I do want to give the refs, I do want to salute to them a little bit, because I felt that they've called these games pretty well for the most part. Yes, they've missed some big calls late in games, but that happens, one, in all sports, but two, also, perfection, there's no such thing as perfection. Perfection is not something that actually can be achieved, I always tell people that that's just a word that's in our society, and there are people, some of us do try to achieve perfection, but you can never achieve perfection in anything, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to, let you guys know that, that's how I felt about the refs, and, hopefully they get better. Again, as long as they're progressing, that's all that matters. We're ready to start round 2 here, so hopefully they get better at, calling tighter calls down stretches of games. But yeah, I just want to talk about that really quick. But anyways, let's dive into what we really want to talk about. So let's get started on let's talk about the Eastern Conference. Let's just dive straight into it. So we'll talk about the Bucks and Pacers. Pacers won the series 4-1. Before the series started, I gave my pre-predictions. I took the Pacers. I told you guys I was gonna take the Pacers, but I switched last minute to the Bucks, and that was mainly, again, that was kind of an emotional pick, truth be told. I told you guys I felt that the Pacers were a better team top to bottom, and I should have just taken the Pacers, but I didn't. I took the Bucks, and it is what it is. I'm not beating myself over the head about it. But let's talk a little bit about it. Let's start off with obviously the Bucks season have ended, so let's talk about them. We know Giannis's future is the biggest cloud in the room, but if you've been following me since last summer, you would have known that I told you that he was on the clock in Milwaukee and that I felt that it potentially this year or next year could be his last year in Milwaukee because of Dame's contract situation and them not reaching new heights. I've talked about this last summer. And then a couple months back, I think it was in February or January, I kind of went on a rant talking about how I felt Brooklyn was best positioned to grab Giannis and how they can get Giannis and then still draft a young player and still also go out and get another all-star superstar to pair with him in Brooklyn because Brooklyn has so much stuff to work with. I'm not here to talk more about that. We have until the offseason to talk about Giannis, and we will talk about Giannis more in the offseason later on, okay? So I just, I don't want to spend time talking about that. Dame's injury is very unfortunate. I feel bad for Dame. I mean, I think not next year, but the year after, he has a player option. And so I just feel bad. I feel bad for Dame. Dame seems like he's a great man. Hopefully obviously next season he's not going to be able to, he won't be himself. It takes over a year to fully recover and then you got to get up to basketball speed. I just feel bad for him. I feel bad for him. But yeah, I don't really have too much to talk about that. I do want to talk about Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, I think, I don't ever wish ill on anybody's job. I don't ever want to see nobody losing money. I really don't. But Doc Rivers, I don't think he should be an NBA head coach anymore. There's just so many moments throughout this series that I watched him make. Like on this last game that they just lost, the game that they, should have won. Down the stretch, he had Giannis passing the ball to the inbounds. And I get it, it's your superstar player, you want the ball in his hands. But to me, he shouldn't have even been passing the ball from the inbounds, personally. I just don't think he should have been. But they had him passing the ball in. And then also there was another play where they had him actually in the game. And I'm just like, what is going on, But I just don't think it was a good idea. And then also a lot of his out of bounds plays down the stretch weren't NBA coach playoff level, I think maybe Doc Rivers would be a great assistant for somebody. But yeah, him being a head coach, I'm over him being a head coach. So now let's talk about the Pacers a little bit. Pacers obviously next round we'll play the Cleveland Cavaliers. I got Cleveland in that series. And one thing that I mainly will be paying attention to, and I've been saying this again since last summer about Tyrese Halliburton, is that I just really want to see him more aggressive scoring. I really would love to see Halliburton taking 18 to 20 shots a game. I just think that could really open up. He's super efficient. He's a very efficient player. So I just think him being that aggressive, though, scoring-wise, I think that could really basically reach, extend the limit and basically the heights of what this team can be. But as long as he's like this super, 14, 15 shot per game guy, I think that kind of just caps this team, So I'm hoping in the second round he feels a sense of urgency and he's more aggressive attacking Mitchell, attacking Garland. Because I think he can hang. He can hang with these players if he's more aggressive, but he's just not. So that's something I will mainly be looking forward to in this series. Like I said, I do got Cleveland winning the series. I just think Cleveland offensively, I think they're just so crisp with everything they do. And I think defensively, I don't think Indiana's going to be able to slow them down. But then on the other side of the ball, I think Cleveland's defense will be able to slow down Indiana's offense. But I do want to throw out, again, if Halliburton's going to be that aggressive player that I would like to see him be, then this could be a long series. And as I watch the series, I may come on here and tell you guys, okay, he's doing what I'm asking of him. I might switch my pick to Indiana. Okay. But today, right now, I just think Cleveland's a better team, top to bottom. I just think they're on a mission. And yeah, I just think they're a better team. So I'm taking Cleveland. But I will be watching out for Halliburton's aggressiveness in that series. Okay. So let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next series. Boston and the Magic. Right now, I think Boston's on somewhat. Obviously, let's talk about the beginning. So Boston beat the Magic 4-1. Boston right now, in my opinion, they have so many injuries right now. They're just dealing with little knickknacks. And I told you guys this a while back. As soon as we found out they got new owners and that deal went through, I literally came on that next episode and told you guys, I said this is it for this Boston team. I think this iteration of this Boston team is going to get broken up. Because I watched the press conference of the guy who wanted to buy the Celtics basically throw a jab at the new owners, saying that the new owners they don't want to have to pay the luxury tax. And when I seen that, he didn't say it directly. He kind of just politically, I'm into economics. So you got to be able to understand their lingo, the economic lingo, of these billionaires and businessmen. And I could understand what he was saying. And long story short, he was saying that, they don't want to pay the tax bill. I would have paid the tax bill and so forth. But yeah, I think this is it for this Boston team. I think regardless of if they win or if they lose in the finals or whenever they lose or if they win, whatever happens with this team, I think this is it. I think we're more likely than not, we will probably see Jrue Holiday and Porzingis off the team. I think obviously Tatum and Brown are untouchable. Derek White, I think he's the third closest thing to untouchable left on that team. And so I think this is the last iteration we'll see of that team. So let's enjoy it, And I told my Celtic fan out there, my big unk, you know what I'm saying? He's OG. I told him this was it for them. But anyways, I think this is it for Boston. Next round, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how them and the Knicks goes. I'll talk more about that in a second. Let's talk about the Magic for a second. I've been telling you guys this. I told you guys this at the beginning of the season. I believe Paolo is going to have an amazing opportunity and potential opportunity to be the best player in the Eastern Conference. Like that's how high I am on him right now. And watching him throughout this series, he didn't disappoint me at all. I just really want to see them obviously get more offense on this team and get this boy some more help. Orlando, I actually just seen an interview about I think it was yesterday or the day before that, the basketball operations manager over in Orlando, he was like, basically we're in win now mode. So that's good. That I'm happy to see that he sees what I see in Paolo, because Paolo hoops. He hoops. That's my guy. Anyone to do. That's my guy. I mess with Paolo heavy. But to me, he's a superstar. I think he's a superstar incoming. Obviously, I'm not going to deem him a superstar today, even if I feel that, because, obviously he got to still show us. He still got to get to a conference finals. He just got to show us, But get him some help, Orlando. And I think they will. I think they are going to be aggressive in pursuing maybe like a Kevin Durant. I think they're going to be pursuing heavy. I think they can put together a really good package for a player like Giannis. We'll see who's on Giannis's list, of course. But I'm just saying, Trae Young, they're going to get somebody down in Orlando. I'm going to, I'll book it. I'll put a stamp on that. I'm pretty sure they're going to get somebody down in Orlando to help Paolo out. Does it cost them Franz? I think the only person I'm trading Franz for, to be real with you guys, is if it's Giannis. If I can get Giannis, then I would do it. But anyways, I just wanted to say that about Orlando. But let's talk about this Boston and New York second round series. Let's talk about this very briefly. Boston's going in there, like I said, on life support. And I do expect the Knicks to make this. I think it's going to be a competitive series. But I'll talk more about that once we get after I talk about the Knicks versus Detroit, okay? So let's go to the next series. The next series is Cleveland versus Miami. Cleveland, like I told you guys, they just look so crisp. They just look so crisp right now, bro. And I think Boston is going to have to be darn near 100% to beat Cleveland. And if they're not, when we get there, like I said, we'll talk more about it if we get to that matchup. But it's not, I'm probably leaning Cleveland if Boston not 100%, because Cleveland's just looking so crisp right now, and they just look like they're on a mission. Let's talk about Miami. So luckily for Miami that they got into the play-in and got to the playoffs this year, because they were going to keep their pick this year, but would have sacrificed their 2026 draft pick to OKC, and it would have been unprotected. So, and obviously this Miami Heat team next year, currently constructed, is going to be worse than the one this year. So I think that's why Miami was like, we got to get into the playoffs this year. So OKC will get their pick this year. It's the 15th pick in the draft, so that'll go to OKC. But Miami, luckily, next year will be able to, get a nice young player to add to their core. Miami got some big decisions to make this summer, in my opinion. And they got to kind of decide what they want to do. Does Bam want to stay? Does Bam want to stay in Miami? Does he want to be a part of, that potential, if it's a full rebuild or a mini rebuild? Does he want to be a part of that? Does Tyler Hero want to be a part of that? I really like Nikola Jovic. I like his game. I just do. I'm just interested to see what Miami does. Does Pat Riley stay in Miami, or does he say, okay, I've done what I'm ready to walk away. It's Miami's, there's going to be some changes in South Beach this summer, no doubt. Let's talk about the Knicks and Detroit. Knicks won that series 4-2. I told you guys last week that it's just been really rough for me watching New York offensively and defensively. That hasn't changed in my opinion. I think this series against Boston will let us know if New York, because right now, in my opinion, New York gave up way too much from Mikal Bridges, way too much. So I think this series against Boston, because that's what they got him for, was against the Bostons of the world. So I think this series upcoming is going to be very paramount for him and to kind of justify them making that trade for him. And so that's something I'm going to be paying attention to. What impact does he have on this series? And honestly, truth be told, even if he shuts down like a Derek White, he didn't got to shut down Tatum or Brown, but even if he can shut down like a Derek White, like to me, that will be, I ain't gonna say that justify the trade, but that would for sure, put some seasoning on the food within that trade. Like, okay, I kind of understand why you did that, But yeah, that's something I'm gonna be paying attention to in that series. I do think the Knicks will be able to grab at least 2 games, and depending health-wise what Boston is, this could go 7, but it all depends on Boston's health. I think if Boston is 70% okay and they win this series, we're going to see some big changes in New York. And let's say Boston beats them. Let's say they beat them 4-2. Let's say they beat them in 7, but they're like they're hobbled. They got, like knick-knack injuries and it's clearly, and like we can clearly tell, like, bro, these dudes are not supposed to be able to beat these dudes in 6 games. Then we're going to see some big changes in New York. Let's say New York pushes them to a game 7, and let's say they lose game 7 by like 5 or something, or it's like, close game. I still think changes are coming in New York, truth to be told. And again, I don't like calling for people's jobs, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. I think it's time for Tibbs to go. I think it's time for them to let go of Tibbs. I think they've kind of reached their ceiling with him. I know this is the first season with the Mikal Bridges and OG, like fully, but yeah, I just think it might be time for them to let go of Tibbs. I think also what happened during the season, Mikal Bridges coming out speaking about Tibbs. I ain't gonna say I don't think he's lost the locker room, but I just think it's time for him to go. I think they've kind of reached their cap with him, and he's a defensive head coach, and this team is not a good defensive team. So even though I think he's good I think it's time to let go of Tibbs. If they beat Boston, then okay, then you justify and you'll keep him. But I think they have to go to a game 7, and I think that game 7 has to be close for this man to keep his job. And if it's not that, then he's gone. I think he's gone regardless, truth be told. But I think, for him to keep it, I think it's that. Let's talk about Detroit really briefly. So with Detroit, I told you guys I did expect Cade to get them 1 to 2 games. He did exactly that. I'm excited to see how Ivy and how Jaden Ivey's iteration is with this team going into next year. I'm really looking forward to that. I do expect him to be somewhat in game shape around Christmas time because it's going to take a couple months to really get his feet wet and stuff. I think there are some moves coming. I think there is a big move coming for Detroit this summer too. I know Langston, their president of basketball operations, I know he has a relationship with Zion back in New Orleans, so I'm interested to see if Detroit, do they cash some chips in and try to go get Zion from New Orleans? It's just something to watch for. I do think Detroit's going to make a move this summer. I just don't know how big of a move, but I think they can see what Cade is, I think we all see what Cade is. He was the number 1 rated player out of high school, number 1 pick in the draft. His player comp coming out of college, and this wasn't me who said it, but I think it was either Jonathan Givony or Mike Schmidt literally said his player comp is like Luka. He's a better defender than Luka. Let's not get it wrong. Yeah, I'm interested. I think something is coming in Detroit. Detroit basketball. Shout out to my boy Shane. So that's the Eastern Conference up to this point. So next, we'll talk about the Western Conference. We'll start off with the Lakers versus Timberwolves. Timberwolves won the series 4-1. I did pick the Lakers to win the series, and truth be told, it's my fault because I did make that choice, and I literally made that choice. Yes, I did tell you guys I felt like the Lakers have more playmakers and shot creators, and I meant that. But I also allowed the mainstream media's narrative to I allowed that to infiltrate my mind, and I told you guys, I was like, I think it's going to be Lakers Warriors next round. That's what they want to see. And I shouldn't have went about it that way completely. I always like to keep narratives in the back of my mind, but I shouldn't have led with that. So it's my fault, 1,000%. I should have done more of my due diligence. I should have trusted myself more, not lean more so on that kind of stuff. So I'm mad at myself about that because I probably would have taken the Timberwolves if I would have really, done my X's and O's, done my deep dive research that I normally do. But anyways, Lakers lost. And I want to say, too, I think the Lakers' problems, let's talk about the Lakers first. I think their problems are bigger than just adding a center. I think it's more than that. One, LeBron's 40. LeBron obviously can't be your second best player at the age of 40. We've seen that. We've seen that throughout this series. He was gassed. He had great games, amazing games. Let's not get it twisted. But I just don't think he could be your second best player anymore. Also, I think Luka was still dealing with the withdrawals from the whole Dallas situation. Like, imagine you get a job, and imagine let's say you're like at corporate. Let's say you're in corporate America, you got a corporate job, and you lead like the sales department. And because of your sales, the previous year, your department actually helped the company you helped the company beat earnings, and your year-over-year growth was like some crazy, like you broke a record. You let's say you did like 30%, 40% or something year-over-year growth. You know what I'm saying? Your CAGR was like a 30% or something, right? Like, and then literally out of nowhere, one day the boss comes in and says, "You're fired. We believe that you can't lead us. You can't lead us to repeat this again. We think this is a one-time thing. We saw some things, some habits that you were doing that we just didn't agree with moving forward. So we're going to let you go." Imagine what that impact would have on you spiritually, mentally, financially, and physically and emotionally. Imagine what that would do to you. And that's just an example I want to give you guys when it comes to Luka and how that whole Dallas thing happened, But yeah, anyways, I think that was playing a big part in Luka. Luka still didn't have a horrible series by no means, but I just don't think he still was fully over that, And I've seen a lot of people kind of slander him. Oh, he's still out of shape, yada, yada. But again, this is the beginning of that narrative, right? We've seen this story before, right? Where it's like, oh, X, Y, and Z, this player's out of shape, this player's this, that. I'm throwing my chips on Luka. I think Luka will be perfectly fine. I think having an offseason in LA, getting his workout in, maybe going back to his country and kind of just, relaxing and resetting. I think Luka's going to be perfectly fine. I'm not worried about Luka. At least for me, people that I've seen play live, and I've seen a lot of NBA players play live, Luka's, truth be told, probably one of the 5, like, visually watching, like, in-person watching, he's probably one of the 5 greatest players I've ever seen play. Like, he's up there. He's one of the 5 for sure. One day I'll tell you guys the 5, but he's one of my 5 for sure. He's not number 1 by no means. He's not number 2. He's not 3 either. He's probably 4 or 5th for me. But yeah, I think Luka will be fine. I'm not worried about him at all. Also, I think other problems, JJ got to go through some experience. This was his first time in the playoffs, his first time being a head coach. I think JJ will be fine too. I think that starting lineup, I think they got to construct a team. This team was not, think about it, they picked Luka up mid-season, okay? So, and again, this goes back to me. I should have, all this stuff that I'm telling you guys, I should have considered all this before the series started. But again, I was running with the narrative. But anyways, I think JJ, obviously, they just need to construct a team around JJ's schemes and also around Luka and also life after LeBron, So there was more things to it. Like Dorian Finney-Smith shouldn't have been starting. He's not a starter anymore. He's a come off the bench type of role. He's come off the bench type of player now. And at this point in his career, in my opinion, they need a more younger, more versatile defender to be starting. But anyways, I think. Also, I do want to give flowers to Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks as well. I didn't really hear anybody talk about what they did for this team over this course of this year. So I think Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks, I think they should get another head coach jobs. I think they should. They've, like I said, they helped JJ out a lot, and I think they were a big reason why this defense was what it was this year. For stretches in the season, I think they deserve their flowers. And offensively, Nate McMillan's not a good offensive coach; he's a good defensive coach. But Scott Brooks, I thought was a pretty solid offensive coach. But yeah, I wanted to give some love to them as well. I think the Lakers, again, this offseason be the first offseason with Luka. Give him a chance to kind of, again, build a team properly around Luka. Figure out, obviously, I think next year is going to be LeBron's last year. I've been telling you guys that since last summer. All-Star games in LA next year. But yeah, and they're going to get somebody to pair with Luka. I told you guys that too a while ago. They're going to get somebody in LA. We know it. It's LA. They're going to get somebody with Luka, so I'm not worried about LA at all. Let's talk about the Timberwolves. Ant, we call Ant. So the abbreviation for Ant, that I want to tell you guys, it's a national treasure, man. We got to protect Ant at all costs. Ant is one of us. Like, he really is one of us, straight up. My boy Ant's one of us. He's repping. But also, Ant beating Bron and them, obviously, yes, we know the Lakers weren't, this Lakers team was not really constructed they just weren't constructed properly. Obviously, like I said, they picked Luka up mid-season. But with that being said, and we do got to still give him his flowers because he did beat a old LeBron, an old Kevin Durant. Regardless of what we think about that, he still did it. And what this is telling me, and I think this was kind of the stamp of it, is that we're going to a new age of basketball. The new era of basketball is here. The throne is vacant with the people that were, the Curry, Durant, and LeBron running that the 2010s. I think it's over. I think that's it. I think this is it. We'll talk about the Warriors and Rockets in a second. But I just kind of want to talk a little bit more about that because Ant slayed these dudes, He sent them packing. He beat them 4-1. He beat KD and them last year. I think he beat KD and them last year 4-1 too. And he beat them in Phoenix and he just beat them in LA. My boy Ant's here, I love Ant, man. He's for sure one of my favorite players. I always got to defend him on the phone with my OG. And one day when I, introduce to you guys what I'm doing soon, one day you guys will see my OG. But yeah, I also want to talk about Jaden McDaniels real quick, and then we'll go to the next series. But with McDaniels, I told you guys this last summer that I wanted to see Jaden McDaniels be more aggressive because I do think, and I'm not saying he's Scottie Pippen. I'm not saying Ant is Jordan either. I'm not saying that, but Ant needs. We see what this Timberwolves team can be when McDaniels is the Robin to Ant's Batman. We see it, and they need McDaniels to constantly be aggressive. McDaniels needs to be taking 17 shots a game. He needs to be taking 17 shots a game. I think he does, and I hope that because he did it in spurts in the Lakers series, but I want to see him do it consistently in the second round and in the conference finals if they get there. Like that's what I'm going to be paying attention to because I think he's the player singularly that's on the team currently right now that can really unlock the next, getting them to that next level, I think he's the guy. And I told you guys this last summer during my Minnesota Timberwolves season preview. I told you guys that. But anyways, let's go to the next series. We got 2 more series to get to. Let's go to the next series. Rockets, Warriors, Game 7's tomorrow. So I'm going to tell you guys this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'm just not going to. So the series have somewhat gone how I expected. I told you guys I was taking the Warriors in the series, but it was mainly narrative based. But also I felt down the stretch, these games, if they're close, I wasn't going to bet against Steph and Jimmy Butler. These last couple games, the Rockets have stormed back from 3-1. And I think they've cracked the code. I think physicality-wise, I think it took them a little bit to get used to the physicality of the playoffs. I think it took them also a while to understand, like, wait a minute, we can really ramp up how physical we're being. I think it was Udoka letting them know, like, bro, like, you guys put your throat on, like, be more aggressive. Take them, put your will on these games. And you've seen it, with their free throw, with them attacking the basket, them being aggressive offensively, getting to the free throw line more, making it a more physical game. They're younger, but I'm saying that to say this. We're going into Game 7. Again, I told you guys I was going to take the Warriors to win the series. Game 7, I'm going to take the Rockets. I told you guys just now, I think the Rockets cracked the code on Golden State. I think Game 7, yes, Steph is going to try to do everything he can. I think him and Jimmy Butler are going to try to do everything he can. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I think as the game wanes, I think they will wear down. They will wear down. They will get beaten down through the game. I think Houston. So I want to tell you guys this. I think for me, when I watch this game, the most important things I'm going to be watching is the first quarter and the third quarter. Okay, so the first quarter because it's a Game 7. Obviously, you got the seasoned vets versus the young thoroughbreds, and what team? Who's going to come out and set the tone? Is it going to be the young guys coming out with the energy and the punch in the mouth, or is it going to be the vets letting them know, like, yeah, this is how this game's going to be going? Like, who's going to come out and set the tone? That's what I'm going to be watching first in the first quarter. And then the most important and the one I think is going to decide the game is that third quarter. We know what the Warriors have been in the past coming out of halftime. But also for me, how I view the third quarter, to me, third quarter is coaching. Because during halftime, that's when the coaches are making their adjustments, So whoever wins that third quarter, I think wins the game. Straight up. And I think that first quarter could be the Warriors because Houston to be at home. They may have jitters and whatnot. So I kind of expect the Warriors probably to win the first quarter. But that third quarter, I do expect Houston to win that third quarter because I think coming out of halftime, they'll be a little bit more settled down. Udoka make his adjustments. And also just, I just think their talent and the physicality that they can, enforce on the game, I just think it's going to be just too much for Golden State. It's kind of like putting cinder blocks, you know what I'm saying, on your shoulders and on your ankles. I just think as the game wanes, a cinder block will be placed on the ankles of Steph, the ankles of Jimmy Butler, and they're both injured. Like, come on. Houston has to win this game 7. I just think they cracked the code, mixed with the injuries, mixed with the physical. I just think I'm taking Houston in game 7. I'm taking Houston in game 7. And if I'm wrong for taking the young guys, then so be it. But anyways, yeah. So I'm taking Houston. I'm taking Houston in game 7. Let's talk about Denver and the Clippers. They play tonight. I was wrong. What I said last week, I told you guys last week I felt that Denver was somewhat defeated. That was totally wrong. I'll come up here in a minute. I was totally wrong. It's just because I've never seen Nikola Jokic act like that. But also, when I kind of reflected more on that, I was like, you know what? Like, him acting like that probably galvanized them as a team. Like, oh, dang. Like, it's kind of like when that one quiet dude turns up, you know what I'm saying? And he's like done getting picked on and he just fires off on somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. Whereas Nikola Jokic speaking up and speaking up. And it's like, oh, shoot, okay, we better, he's serious. Let's lock in, But, yeah, so I was totally wrong. Game 7, I don't trust James Harden, just like I wouldn't trust my niece in a room full of candy. My niece is 3. I wouldn't trust her in a room full of candy. I don't trust James Harden in game 7. I don't. I'm going to put my money on Jamal Murray and on Nikola Jokic. I got Denver winning game 7. Sorry to my boy Drip. Last series we'll check in on is going to be the Thunder and Memphis. Obviously, the Thunder swept these dudes. They did exactly what I thought they were going to do. I mean, high intensity. I think next round, I do expect the defensive intensity of OKC to continue to show itself and lead the way. But I also think Shea is destined to kind of go nuke for the rest of the playoffs. He had a pretty bad series this first round, but I think the playoffs officially starts for the Thunder the second round. And like I said, I think Shea will be more consistent and better the rest of the playoffs. So watch out. Here they come. Memphis, I think, just wasn't ready. Plain and simple. I think they made a good decision, hiring their assistant as their head coach. I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't have done that. I would have probably looked more into Mike Malone. Personally, or even waited to see what other coaches may come available, or even maybe like a Sam Cassell. I think Sam Cassell deserves a head coaching job. Yeah, so Memphis got some things to figure out this summer. I told you guys I felt that, Jaren Jackson may be on his way out. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We have all offseason to talk about Memphis. But yeah, second round, we'll see who OKC gets, if it's Denver or LA. Truth be told, I don't want to talk too much about, because I don't know who they're going to get yet. So I really don't want to give a prediction on that series. But, I mean, I'm taking OKC, truth be told, no matter who they play. So I guess I just gave a prediction. I'm taking OKC regardless if they play Denver or if they play the Clippers. I just think OKC eye test wise, statistically wise, I think they're still on a different level compared to those two teams. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to watch my episode. Again, I'm your host, PJ, and PJ is out.